The first punch never landed. It froze in midair the moment the young black belt realized the quiet man standing in front of him hadn't even blinked. The neighborhood had gathered on their front lawns expecting another humiliating showdown. Phones were already raised, eager to capture a wealthy teenager embarrassing the older mechanic who had just moved into the small house next door. Nobody knew that the calm stranger they mocked had once commanded one of the most elite Navy SEAL teams in the world. What happened over the next few minutes would leave every witness questioning everything they believed about strength, pride, and courage. If you believe kindness is stronger than hatred, forgiveness is more powerful than revenge, hope can change a life, and everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel for more emotional stories that remind us what truly matters. The quiet man was named Garrett Holloway, a 48-year-old veteran whose weathered hands carried more scars than anyone could count. After decades of military service, he had retired with honors, but no medals decorated the walls of his modest home. Instead, the only things hanging there were old family photographs, a faded American flag folded neatly inside a wooden display case, and a picture of the teammates he had loved like brothers. Most of them never made it home. Garrett rarely spoke about his past because he believed the greatest warriors were not the ones who told stories about themselves but the ones who quietly carried the weight of those stories every single day. His wealthy neighbor, Victor Langford, lived in a sprawling mansion that overlooked the neighborhood like a castle. Victor had built a fortune in real estate and believed success gave him the right to judge everyone around him. His pride was reflected in every expensive car parked in his driveway and every conversation that somehow ended with him reminding others of his achievements. His greatest source of pride, however, was his 19-year-old son, Preston Langford, who had earned a black belt after years of competitive martial arts training. Victor proudly introduced Preston to everyone as an undefeated champion, convinced there was no one in town capable of matching his son's abilities. Preston had talent, discipline, and remarkable athletic ability, but he also carried the dangerous burden of believing applause was proof of superiority. Every tournament victory fed his confidence until confidence slowly transformed into arrogance. His father celebrated every win so loudly that Preston never learned the difference between being respected and being feared. Garrett noticed the family soon after moving into the neighborhood. He smiled politely whenever he saw them, waved while watering his small garden, and spent most afternoons repairing old motorcycles in his garage. Children often gathered nearby because Garrett happily showed them how engines worked and encouraged them to solve problems instead of giving up. Parents appreciated his patience, but Victor dismissed him as nothing more than an aging mechanic who had clearly failed to accomplish anything significant. The tension between the two households grew slowly. Victor disliked that neighborhood children preferred listening to Garrett's quiet stories about perseverance rather than admiring Preston's trophies. He convinced himself that the humble veteran was somehow stealing attention from his family without even trying. One bright Saturday afternoon, the annual neighborhood charity picnic filled the local park with laughter, games, and music. Families gathered under colorful tents while volunteers organized fundraising activities for injured veterans and struggling military families. Garrett spent the morning helping elderly guests carry supplies and repairing broken folding chairs instead of joining the competitions. His calm presence seemed to make everyone around him feel comfortable. Preston arrived wearing a jacket proudly displaying patches from martial arts competitions across the country. Several teenagers followed him, eager to watch whatever challenge he might create next. Victor stood nearby with folded arms, smiling proudly as people admired his son's achievements. When a friendly self-defense demonstration began, Preston eagerly stepped into the open field, effortlessly defeating volunteer after volunteer. The crowd applauded enthusiastically. Victor's voice rose above everyone else's as he praised his son's unmatched ability. Then Victor noticed Garrett quietly collecting empty bottles left behind by guests. With a smug smile, Victor loudly suggested that if Garrett thought he knew anything about discipline, he should step into the demonstration area. Laughter spread through part of the crowd. Garrett simply smiled, thanked him for the invitation, and continued cleaning the park. Victor refused to let the moment pass. He continued making comments about age, weakness, and people pretending to be heroes. Preston finally walked directly toward Garrett, surrounded by cheering friends. The challenge was issued publicly. Preston demanded a fight, convinced that defeating the quiet older man would entertain everyone and prove once again that youth always defeated age. Garrett looked at the young man with remarkable kindness rather than anger. He studied the confidence hiding deep insecurity behind proud eyes. He remembered countless young recruits who believed strength meant domination until life taught them otherwise. Instead of accepting immediately, Garrett asked the event organizers whether they would permit a supervised demonstration focused on control rather than violence. Curious spectators agreed. The two men stepped onto the grass beneath the warm afternoon sun. Preston attacked with speed that genuinely impressed experienced observers. Years of disciplined training showed in every movement. His strikes were powerful, precise, and technically excellent. Garrett barely moved. He shifted inches at a time, calmly avoiding every attack without throwing a single punch. His breathing remained slow and steady. His expression never changed. Preston became increasingly frustrated as every carefully practiced technique met nothing except empty air. The crowd slowly stopped cheering. Confusion replaced excitement. Garrett wasn't humiliating the young fighter. He wasn't mocking him. He simply refused to hurt him. Minutes passed. Preston grew exhausted while Garrett appeared almost relaxed. Finally, one aggressive rush caused Preston to lose his balance. Before he could crash face first onto the ground, Garrett gently caught his arm, redirected his momentum, and lowered him safely onto the grass without causing even the smallest injury. Silence covered the park. Nobody had seen Garrett strike. Nobody had seen him attack. Yet everyone understood exactly who possessed true control. Victor's proud smile disappeared. He demanded another round, accusing Garrett of avoiding a real fight. Only then did one elderly veteran sitting quietly near the picnic tables slowly stand. His voice trembled with emotion as he recognized Garrett's face. Years earlier, that veteran had served alongside another military unit during a dangerous overseas mission. He told the stunned crowd that Garrett Holloway had once commanded a Navy SEAL team responsible for rescuing dozens of soldiers trapped behind enemy lines. He described Garrett as the kind of leader who always walked through danger first so younger teammates could return home safely. Garrett looked uncomfortable as attention shifted toward him. He quietly admitted the veteran was telling the truth but insisted none of it mattered anymore. He explained that the military had taught him one lesson greater than combat. The strongest person in any fight is usually the one who chooses not to fight. Those words settled deeply into the silent crowd. Preston remained sitting on the grass, breathing heavily. For the first time in years, nobody applauded him. But nobody mocked him either. Garrett offered his hand. Preston hesitated before accepting it. That single gesture carried more meaning than any trophy either man could have held. Over the following weeks, unexpected changes spread through the neighborhood. Preston began visiting Garrett's garage during the afternoons. Neighbors assumed the young man wanted revenge or another chance to prove himself. Instead, they found him learning completely different lessons. Garrett never taught flashy combat techniques. He taught patience while rebuilding engines. He taught responsibility while repairing bicycles for neighborhood children. He taught humility by helping elderly neighbors without expecting recognition. Preston slowly realized that discipline extended far beyond martial arts. Victor struggled far more than his son. His pride refused to accept that the man he had insulted possessed extraordinary achievements hidden beneath complete humility. One afternoon Victor accidentally overheard Garrett speaking with another veteran. Instead of discussing missions or medals, Garrett quietly blamed himself for teammates he couldn't save decades earlier. Tears filled his eyes as he admitted that surviving carried responsibilities far heavier than winning battles. Victor stood frozen behind the garage door. For the first time, he saw not a legendary soldier but a grieving human being who still carried invisible wounds despite years of silence. Something inside Victor finally broke. The following weekend he walked across the street carrying nothing except sincere regret. His apology came without excuses. He admitted wealth had convinced him that success could be measured by admiration, while Garrett had shown him that true greatness was measured by service. Garrett accepted the apology immediately. Not because Victor deserved forgiveness, but because Garrett believed bitterness imprisoned both people equally. The neighborhood changed in ways nobody expected. The annual charity picnic became much larger the following year. Victor donated generously but insisted his name appear nowhere on the banners. Preston volunteered to teach free confidence classes for children struggling with bullying, emphasizing respect before technique. Garrett continued fixing motorcycles, mentoring teenagers, and quietly supporting veterans returning home with invisible scars. He never displayed his military medals. Most visitors never even learned about his extraordinary past. The people who mattered already knew enough. Years later, neighborhood children who had witnessed that unforgettable afternoon still remembered what happened. They rarely spoke about the black belt demonstration itself. Instead, they remembered an older man refusing to embarrass someone who had challenged him. They remembered strength expressed through mercy. They remembered that courage sometimes looked like lowering an opponent safely onto the grass instead of knocking him down. Most importantly, they remembered that respect could never be demanded. It had to be earned through character. Before we finish this story, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever met someone whose quiet humility completely changed your understanding of strength? Please leave a meaningful comment below and share the lesson this story reminded you of. Your words may encourage someone who needs hope today. As another bright afternoon sun settled gently over the peaceful neighborhood, Garrett sat on his front porch watching children laugh while riding repaired bicycles through the streets. Preston joined him with 2 glasses of lemonade, no longer seeking praise, only grateful for another ordinary day spent learning how to become a better man. Victor smiled from across the street, finally understanding that the greatest inheritance a father could give his child was not money, trophies, or status, but the example of humility. Garrett looked at the joyful neighborhood and quietly realized that after surviving battles across the world, his greatest victory had not come through force at all. It had come through choosing compassion when pride invited conflict, forgiveness when resentment seemed easier, and kindness when everyone expected revenge. Sometimes the strongest warrior is not remembered for the fights he wins but for the fights he peacefully ends, leaving behind hearts transformed instead of lives broken. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember that true strength is revealed not when we prove we can defeat someone, but when we show we have the wisdom, courage, and compassion to lift them up instead.